Good evening and welcome back for another episode of State of the SEL. We are really now getting down to the business end of the postseason in both Rocket League and Valorant. So it's time to break down our final remaining teams: 6 in Rocket League, 4 in Valorant in the top playoffs. And then, of course, Rising Star is still going on. I'm Mr. Betpick. Infernosis is in the booth with me. As always, Scotty, my boy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited. It is a little bit depressing that SEL this season is coming to a finite
Yeah.
ending. And we've talked a little bit about, losing teams and players and them graduating and leaving the esports scene overall for collegiate. But at the same time, it's new beginnings and we get to see hopefully a set of really great endings. We've got a lot on the docket for us today.
That really is, I think, the worst part about having a full year-long schedule. The season seems so long, but then you get to the end of it, and that is it. These seniors we will likely never see again. And it didn't hit me until last year's LAN just how much the seniors leaving mean to me, because those were the seniors that grew up into college with me, like same year as me. I graduated that year as well, and so losing Rocket League guys like B More, Unfriable Apples, the Florida State guys, it really did hit on LAN. So I know the more we get Valorant integrated into the SEL scene as well, the more that's going to hit too. It is the saddest part, I think, about collegiate esports.
Yeah, it's the unfortunate, throne we have to, encroach ourselves upon here, Blake. It's just
Yeah.
it's the way the cookie crumbles. And while we've stepped out of collegiate as players and as participants in college, no more studying for us in that capacity. We at least get to help these players and these students along the way to hopefully create some great memories. And we know for a fact those LAN memories are stuff that they'll never forget. I know there's a couple from last semester who still occasionally reach out and message me and say, "Remember when I did this? Remember this moment? This?" I'm like, yeah. I absolutely do. And so no telling who else also remembered you were encroaching their mind forever.
I do forget sometimes that the players we see compete on a weekly basis still have homework to do. I forget that that's a thing, that they actually go to classes during the day. Well, probably some of them go to classes during the day.
Hopefully they do.
Hopefully, for all intents and purposes, they all go to class during the day. If any of the administrations are listening right now, as a Shaka in production chat goes. But regardless, we do need to break down. I think the actual gameplay, the classes stuff, we rely on the players to take care of, but the actual gameplay we do get some insight into, and it was a pretty busy week in the Valorant postseason. So if you want to go ahead and toss it over to your highlighted matches, Scott, let's do it.
Okay, we'll first start off with UGA versus Cumberland. Which one? Because there was a UGA Red and a UGA Black against a Cumberland Destiny and Cumberland Phoenix. We'll start with the Destiny side, the bottom side of our playoff bracket. It was kind of a Destiny game through and out, right? I mean, UGA put up a pretty good fight, but on Haven, it was just no competition from them. If you click on game one there, Shaka, it is not that shocking overall, considering how good we saw Cumberland Destiny perform on this map. The week prior, when Dallas and I were doing a side stream, they looked, and we had said straight up, if they play like this, they will have zero competition against UGA Black. And look at the final scoreline at 13-3. It was just, that was always the way we were going to see it. I would dare argue that they are the best team we've seen on air for the SEL for the map of Haven. And there are some really good teams, it feels like, this semester we've seen on Haven. Turn that around over to Lotus, though. And UGA Black has been pretty good overall for Lotus. They're one of the teams that have been able to shut down UAH's Lotus map, where they bring out the crazy Sentinel lineups. So they've been an overall solid performer for it. Eventually, they did come out on top. 10s was a huge pivotal point for them. We talked a lot about previously about bomb plants and effective offenses. It's kind of hard to be effective consistently on your offenses for this map, but 8 bomb plants is the great way to go about it. Their defense did struggle, but you get the win in OT. You have a much better opening kill effectiveness, and that's exactly what you'd expect from a team that's as frag heavy as UGA Black is. And then third map, unfortunately, turns it over to Ascent. And when you look at Cumberland Destiny and what their primary roster has done for this map, they are by far the best Ascent team we've seen. It's bound to have rubbed off on them in some way. Destiny come away with a win, as expected, in a map like Ascent, 13-9. Even though it is the map where good teams go to die, you can put the right foot forward if you're Cumberland Destiny with a good success there. Turn that over now to the other UGA side versus Cumberland Phoenix, which shockingly enough was not as much as a lopsided affair as you would expect. And step over towards game one. Pearl has always been super hit or miss for UGA Red. If trailer is absolutely hitting, they are a monster hidden in a Phoenix's body because they love to rock the double duelist Yoru and Phoenix combo. But when the rounds start to get further in and they get tougher because teams are starting to capitalize and start to counteract that individual's play, Psy starts to fail to create space on that Yoru, which is going to be super easily read by this Phoenix roster, and it turns into forcing Trailer to be that primary duelist when they're really just trying to be a utility player and be that secondary swinger just behind Psy creating the space. And that's where you see, like, towards the end of a map like that, and like they have lost before, things start to fall apart, and it comes away where still UGA Red got the most round wins on a map against any compared to any other team against Cumberland Phoenix. But it wasn't enough to take a map off them, which would have also been the first time someone was able to do that here for the season of the SEL. And then map 2, Lotus has not always been the strong suit of UGA Red. They did give up like 13 rounds in a row, it felt like, against UAH Blue with their crazy Sentinel selection. But 13-2 is not the best scoreline to look at overall at the end of it. As you'd kind of expect, J-Phone is one of the single best players we've ever seen on this map. And while they weren't allowed to go as crazy as they have previously, they still were unbelievably impressive. And it felt like everyone was really participating. And we'll throw it down to our Rising Stars. We talk a lot about USC, and that's because we felt that USC, if they get there, we're a team that was pretty much a shoe-in for Rising Stars finals. They had the tougher side of the bracket overall. And with the victory here against GMUB, they've guaranteed themselves into that final. And they're still my overall slight nudge and vote, no matter how much I like JMU. And you would like, oh, you like them with some bias. I still think USC is absolutely capable of pulling that off. Map 1 was a pretty crazy story for them. Lotus is a tough map in Rising Stars for any team. Feels very similar to Ascent. The USC was able to stay on top. Ithaca has been a player we've looked at consistently across the board. Landagus has also been super consistent as a utility player. Never felt like they're lacking. And while the scoreline is fairly close at the end of it, it's not as close as what it came down to on map 2. Turning it over to Split. And USC had, I think, like an 8-4 score at halftime, if not higher. They were dominating, but Split does what Split does, right? It takes 0 prisoners. It just executes everybody when needed. A major comeback comes back, and it's just going to be what GMU do. And it leads all the way on to overtime. I think actually USC had to force match point first, or had to get to match point to even get OT, despite their major lead, if I recollect correctly. Could be wrong on that one. We were also watching the Georgia game at the time, so I missed the end of Split. But it required GMU to go absolutely crazy, which then leads us over to our third map, which was Ascent, where, once again, good teams go to die. And GMU, after all the trials they went through on map 2, just couldn't get the job done here against Ascent, against USC on Ascent. And a 5-round difference on Ascent is a pretty wide margin, fairly comfortable for him. And Doofenshmirtz, who doesn't always go crazy, it feels like, for USC, played absolutely lights out, locking down that B site for him, and created what you could argue is a performing USC that is likely to win the finals come 2 weeks, or April 27th, I think is the date for it. Whenever that date is, they're likely to win it if they play any capacity like this against JMU's B team.
So I want to ask you a question about the Ascent being where good teams go to die points, because that's always kind of confused me as a non-inherent Valorant person. What does that mean exactly?
Okay, so similarly to Mirage on CS, Dust 2 on CS, Oregon on R6, right? It's the map that everyone knows best. It's the map that's played the most often, whether that be your normal rank stacks, your comp stacks, scrims, everything else in between. It is just the #1 most played map, which means no matter how good you are as a one-trick pony for this map, there's going to be somebody that has nearly just as much experience without focusing on it as well as you do. And it means that even if you're a crazy team, arguably one of the best teams, we see it all the time in R6, you could be a literal tier 1 team and you scrim a tier 3 pug stack, you can lose that map. You, in fact, are very likely to lose that map because it is just a place where everyone knows it so well. Good teams, even if you pick it, you better have a lot of confidence, because that is where good teams die without realizing that they were falling apart from the get-go.
Okay, interesting. That makes a lot of sense now that you've explained it outright. So now my brain's grown a couple sizes here when it comes to Valorant, which that was an entertaining night to watch last Thursday. The UGA versus Cumberland battles, James Madison getting a win as well. Fun Valorants. We're shaping up for a really exciting end of the season here with semifinals coming up here in the next couple of days. But let's talk Rocket League for a second, because that's tomorrow. More important right now, more on our minds. About what happened last Wednesday, as we saw several Game 5. Bruton Parker in Florida, the first highlighted match here. Went to Game 5 on stream. Florida came in looking so good into this series. They won the first 2 games and then only scored 2 goals the last 3 games of that series, while being outscored 11-2. That was a rough one for the Gators. And then they went and lost their NECC Grand Finals as well. They got bracket reset and then lost the second series to Daytona State as well. So rough week for Florida, who were probably on top of the world. Great land performance the week prior. And then Rocket League does what Rocket League does and takes them back down to earth. So now they're in the lower bracket playing Kennesaw State tomorrow, as they looked like they could beat Bruton Parker, but BPC just flipped a switch. First two games, they looked rough. They were making mistakes. They looked disjointed. Passes weren't connecting. They were whiffing in defense. Manny especially had a really rough first two games. And then something flipped between games 2 and 3, where BPC just turned it on. They found a way to start connecting those passes, stop missing in defense. And Manny especially stepped up big time to lead the attack that put up those 11 goals in 3 games on Florida's defense. So shout out to Bruton Parker. They looked really good that back half of the series. So they're playing Cumberland in the winners finals tomorrow. And then their B team, Bruton Parker Academy, in the lower bracket, effectively ended the SEL career of Katz, legendary SEL player, shoe-in Hall of Famer, no doubt, former SEL champion, and he is done. Even though South Carolina technically do qualify for the LAN, I've been told by Katz himself that they are more than likely declining that invite due to scheduling purposes. So we won't see South Carolina on LAN, unfortunately. So that was it. They lost to Bruton Parker Academy in Game 5, and they are out of the tournament. But BPC now have 2 of the top 6 teams in the SEL. We've got something similar. If Cumberland had a B team in Rocket League, Scott, maybe they would have 2 in the top 6 as well. But we have got some dominant programs in Rocket League and Valorant as well, just the SEL as a whole.
That just makes me miss BPC for Valorant as well. I mean, to be fair, they had the Phoenix style of, brought in talent from all across the globe to escalate them. The winners of the LAN previously, right? I mean, I want to see even more. We got to bring in even more. I'm gonna have to be in the Twitter DMs of half the collegiate directors, because I would love to see them bring a third, a fourth, a fifth team. You're already paying the dues,
right?
Let's start making a legacy even further known here for the SEL.
South Carolina's done. They had an F team, I think, in the SEL this semester. They really made the most of their dues, which is good. That's what we want. That's why we've got Rising Star. That's why we've got the format that we do. UTK had 6 teams as well. So shout out to those SEL schools that make the most of the $450 to enter the league. But talking about Game 5s here, BBC Academy 1-5 here. It was a very fun series to watch. And then off stream, Kennesaw State with Flitz in the lineup here, taking on UT Dallas, ending their playoff run here in Game 5. So back and forth, so messy. The winning team didn't have fewer than 4 goals in any of these games, and that is pretty much how both these teams play. They get messy sometimes, and they couldn't stop scoring apparently here. I'm going to try to add up how many goals both sides scored, but Kennesaw State on a tear at the moment. This is their CECC lineup, the Flitz TNT Dillon combo. And so within SEL, they are really looking good at the moment. Their only loss is in Game 5 to Florida, who they will be playing in playoffs here next round tomorrow. So looking pretty good at the moment. UT Dallas, I have a feeling you won't see the last of them in the SEL. Hopefully this season. With what I've heard, the rumor mill talking about LAN invites, but 3 Game 5s. We went the distance in Rocket League last week.
Yeah, I'm very glad to see it. I mean, we had a couple BO3s come through, especially when it came down to the Georgia Black roster against Destiny. I mean, we even had thought that one was initially just going to be a 2-0 for Destiny with the way they were playing, but truth be told, in SEL, it feels like anything is possible, especially, though, if you're Oklahoma. You were really praying that UJ Black was going to get through, because you saw that GMU got through off of their forfeit victory this week, as apparently it seems like Texas Tech doesn't exist anymore. Texas State University doesn't exist for a Valorant program any further, which is very sad to see. They were a very great team. But you were happy to see GMU progress, and you were one single win away, guys. One single win, one good map. Now you unfortunately have to face the Titans of the rest that have been confirmed to tie you up for playoffs, and we're likely going to force them to have to actually face off too, which just make matters even worse for us. But speaking of facing off. We've had some pretty good games, and we have some highlight teams and players to just show off here on top of that. For the Valorant side of things, we'll go aside on the side of UGA Black. This is the player we did an interview with for our finals at the end of last split. They're cocky, they're confident, they lie saying they've never scrimmed, they don't practice, but we still love them nonetheless. They've got a great trash talk. If you can handle trash talk, if you can't, then it probably comes off pretty darn bad. But Side has always been a very darn good player, and they were definitely one of the big highlight points for this team to try to give as much of an edge against such a fantastic team like Cumberland Destiny is. But unfortunately, time, can't heal every wound, but you still have to give so much respect to them for trying to elevate that roster past them. And then you turn it over for the team of the week, and unfortunately, it's got to go to the cohorts that they lost to. It's going off to Cumberland Destiny. I was actually very tempted, Blake, to give this to Georgia Red for actually getting a 9 rounds, the most of any team against Phoenix. But the 13-2 in the very next map kind of left a sour taste about giving them team of the week, especially the way Destiny played and absolutely lights out map 1, combo the win on map 3, and the closeness of map 2 on top of that, right? Like everything in between. So I got to give it to Cumberland Destiny. They are a very scary looking team. And with that, you've also confirmed that they're also a tiebreaker shoe-in for LAN when the matches go down. And with the teams they're looking to face, I could very well say with 95% confidence, they'll also make LAN alongside their main team at this rate.
I mean, I think it's fitting that we give Team of the Week or any kind of accolade that we can give to a Cumberland roster because they've kind of got main character syndrome in the SEL this season. With them dominating Rocket League, they've only dropped 4 games in Rocket League. They have 2 teams in the semifinals for Valorant, more than likely, at the very least, playing a tiebreaker for LAN with how things will shake out after the semifinals are done. So, I mean, we're going to see a lot of Cumberland on LAN this semester, but that's all right. They're fun teams to watch. So my accolades for Rocket League actually don't go to Cumberland. So they're not getting all the accolades just yet because I have a feeling they might get the real accolades at the end of the semester. But my team of the week is the team that they are playing on Wednesday in Bruton Parker. This is kind of both Bruton Parker rosters, but a team as well for their reverse sweep win over Florida, how they just flipped that switch and then just started playing lights out Rocket League, claimed a spot in the winners finals where everyone kind of expected them to be, just based on stature. Again, fall split, reigning champs here. Another ones that get the realistic shot at Cumberland. But I'm lumping in Academy as well with BPC here. It's the program. You lose Coach Stanley. He's off building up Baylor right now. But Bruton Parker hasn't lost their competitive edge. They're now 2 of the top 6 in Rocket League, and we do wish they were still in Valorant. But they are tearing it up still in RL. And then my player of the week goes to one of the James Madison players for not an SEL performance because we won't see him for the rest of the season in the SEL, but ability this past week was part of the Coastal Clash winning James Madison roster. It was his last LAN as a senior at James Madison, and they ended up getting the dub. That's been my 2 consecutive player of the week accolades. A player who is a senior that goes out with a W on LAN. It was Big Wade last week. Now it's Ability this week. Congratulations to Ability. Sadly, we don't get to see you at the SEL LAN as he's got his brother's wedding that weekend, but well, I'm glad you took home the Coastal Clash alongside Pigeon and Gad. So those are our accolades for the week here. Some LAN winners and then some SEL winners.
Like to have a little bit of both on top, and we have more LAN news to talk about towards the end of it as well for some of these teams. And it's not just Rocket League this week. There actually was Valorant LAN activity and some pretty darn good ones on top for SEL teams coming with victories. But there'll be more to talk about that. Let's talk a bit more, Blake, here about how the actual Rocket League rest of this is panning out, because there's a whole lot I've been looking forward to, and I'm looking to see how you break this down.
All right, can we toss the bracket up on screen? Because there was so much action last week. A lot of Game 5s that I didn't even get to talk about. I did talk about all the Game 5s, except for BPC Academy and Florida Southern. So Academy won 2 nail-biting Game 5s to get to the top 6 against feisty rosters. FSC and USC are not easy teams to beat, but BBC Academy able to do it in Game 5, and Milk crashed Manny's interview while TJ and I were interviewing Manny after Bruton Parker A won in Game 5 against Florida. So a lot of Game 5s down there. A lot of sweeps as well. Actually, do we have any Game 4s? No. Okay, no series that went to Game 4. As UTD UTA, which was after State of the SEL last week, was a sweep. South Carolina swept our Auburn Tigers, and then Kennesaw State swept George Mason in a close 3-0, but a 3-0 nonetheless. But the matches this week are so exciting. Cumberland, Bruton, Parker, you've already kind of broken down the two top teams in the SEL this entire season, and they get the advantage of having a series win in the grand finals because we do bracket resets here at the SEL. So the winner of that series, Scott, is in the best position possible for that CECC spot, especially Cumberland, because I don't foresee a world where if they win this best of 5, Bruton Parker takes 2 best of 7s against them in grands.
That seems like such a giant hill to go over, but I know a lot of teams have been fiending for the chance for the CECC bid. I know UNCC was thinking the same thing previously as well. For Valorant, I think that for a lot of the teams in playoffs is like their driving point. Like the split, gold is good. The land gold's even better.
Yep.
But that CECC bid is it's what everyone's really pushing to. If there's anything that could get you to go through, get that BO5 and then all the BO7s afterwards, it's going to be the chances for that, dangling in front of your face.
And that's not to say that the winner of that does have it locked up completely. Maybe we see a crazy lower bracket run. I mean, KSU and Bruton Parker Academy both dropped down to that first lower brackets round, and they've been making runs. KSU with that Flit substitution looks like a completely different team in the sense that they are beating teams that I think they might have lost to previously. And they've got a rematch against Florida, went to 5 the last time those two played. And so that should be a fantastic way to start off the day. It is off the mainstream, unfortunately. I'm hoping Dylan usually streams his perspective, so I'll definitely be keeping an eye on that if that is the case, because Florida, I think, are the hotter of the two teams typically, but KSU is coming off of 2 series wins, and Florida had a really rough week last week. So, and Shaka's reminding me in production chat that Flitz did stream his perspective as well. So that's great exposure for the SEL to have a content creator of Flitz's size streaming our matches. So best of luck to both of those teams. The winner of that does get on stream. And then James Madison, Bruton Parker Academy, one of the most mechanical, most effective offenses in the entirety of the SEL, led by Pigeon in James Madison's offense. I cannot wait to watch because they integrated Tyler, who was playing the sub role in their series the week prior so well. He scored the majority of the goals for James Madison in their streamed match against UT Dallas. And so I'm excited to see how they look against one of the best defenses in all of SEL Rocket League in Bruton Parker Academy, who have been giving us pure entertainment this entire playoff bracket. So we're shaping up for some really good on-stream matches in Rocket League. Scott, I know you'll be watching fervently.
Yeah, especially because you can get so many of them every single week on broadcast. Is at least the best part about Rocket League, and at least in my mind, is like even if a game you have like one bad match in a day and it's like, oh, it's a 3-0, it still was entertaining, but it was fairly quick and done. You got another one you could immediately follow up with right afterwards. We don't get that in Valorant, but at least with Valorant, it's a shooter. It can, you have a lot more activity with the endorphins of the brain for a longer period of time. But I've been enjoying so much these last few weeks tuning into Rocket League on Wednesdays. It's been an absolute blast, especially when I don't know what's happening half the time, except for what you say every Tuesday now for State of the SEL.
Well, I'm happy to help you out and make you more of an SEL Rocket League fan. But let's talk about Rising Star as well. Not seen on stream, unfortunately. We'll work on that next year to get more Rising Star matches on a broadcast. But the lower bracket is shaping up nicely. You got UGA waiting on the one team to emerge out of UTK Blue, UT Arlington Orange, which is the C team, I believe. And then UT Arlington JV, which is the B team, I believe, against Lander Academy. That actually should be a banger. Two academy rosters taking each other on. Those are great programs. I'm a big fan of the Lander program as a whole. Their Rocket League team looks so good in Peach Belt in the fall. And their academy roster, I believe I've coached against in probably ECAC, probably Peach Belt as well. So Coach Faust is doing great work over there, and I know they are hungry to win the Rising Star playoffs, because that program is just one of those that no matter what the competition is, they're looking to win it. They are always going to play their matches out. They're always going to look to win. And so after dropping to lowers, they can make a run, maybe get some revenge against UGA, as that was a close series as well in the upper bracket of Rising Star playoffs. So best of luck to those squads. I mean, we've only got 6 teams left in the Rising Star playoffs. It's getting kind of crazy down in that long lower bracket.
I mean, the longer this thing goes on as well, like the tougher the competition feels like it gets, because what is it? Iron hardens iron or strengthens iron, whatever it is, right? Like the more opponents you face that are difficult, a team that looks like they probably would be pretty easy in round 1, suddenly by the time this last round comes around, they look like they're grizzled and scarred, and they're probably the scariest person to look at the other side of that bracket. I know that's the case for Valorant side of things. I'm sure it's just even harder with how many games get pumped out for Rocket League.
And for the team that does emerge out of that group of 4 squads trying to play Georgia, Koopa Troopa is in Japan right now. The timing worked out perfectly. We didn't have to forfeit any matches. He left basically like the day after or the week after their upper bracket loss, and will get back the day before they have to play again in the lower bracket finals. So there's a chance. I mean, Coop's coming in low hours, as I assume he didn't take his PC rig with him. So the team that does emerge there might have a shot at UGA, but it remains to be seen. I have to play out the matches tomorrow evening, same time as the regular playoffs. The Rising Star playoffs will be going on. But let's talk about LAN again, because this is where we're really starting to focus here. The last couple of weeks of this podcast, preparing for LAN. If we can get the point totals on screen, it has gotten extremely interesting, as KSU has thrown a massive wrench into several teams' plans. I mean, eliminating UT Dallas from official first batch of LAN invitation contention, as it does come down to UNCC, BPC, Academy, and Kennesaw State when it comes to competing for LAN. So if one of Bruton Parker Academy and Kennesaw State get a victory, they will jump up into the top 8, and I believe that the bare minimum be guaranteed a tiebreaker. I should have written down the math before I jumped into this, but a win for KSU and Bruton Parker Academy will do them wonders. They'll get them above UNC Charlotte, and that'll knock the Niners out of LAN contention. Though, like I said earlier, I have been told that a couple teams aren't planning on making it to LAN, and so we might trickle down some invitations when it comes to filling those spots if teams do drop out. But Cumberland has clinched as well. It doesn't show on Liquipedia just because of the way that it is run, but they've got the points to make it to LAN, so that's why they're green. And then, okay, Shaka's written it out for me. Thank you very much. A win for either of them gets top 8. A win for both gets them a tiebreaker for that last LAN spot. So that's what it officially comes down to. So that's a lot on the line. They may have clinched if teams don't end up accepting invitations, but you still want to be in that top 8 and officially clinch. Say you were part of the top 8 the entire SEL season here. There's some pride that comes along with that.
Yeah, there's nothing to scoff at with the difficulty of talent in teams that are here for the SEL, whether that be Rocket League or Valorant or whatever side thing we decide to do, 4 years from now, some random title that probably doesn't even exist yet, right?
Sure.
It always gets tougher, and I know that there's teams, I can't remember who won, I don't know why I can't remember the first split here for the SEL, but they hooted and hollered constantly about it. And despite the fact the next semester they could barely show up and got trounced like every single week back to back, they were still the first team to win. And for Valorant, I mean, there's been less semesters for it because it took us longer to get it going. But for Rocket League, every single semester, and the later the number gets, it just gets more and more impressive. So a win's a win, and making it to a LAN as well is a major win to say you could compete with these teams, especially considering some of the individuals on those teams, right? There's content creators or T1 players, right? Like you look at these and you go, I played against this person. You may not tell your grandkid that in 45 years, but you'll at least brag about it for the next month or so to a couple of your friends.
I mean, that's been the case for a while in the SEL. I mean, and in Rocket League, we had J Russ on Florida back in the day, as he was a semi-pro slash pro player on Florida, and they ended up winning season 1. And so all those old plumbers, Snipes and Aviator and the likes of them, they get to say that they played against J Russ when he was still active. That's still one of the most
You call them
random
plumbers?
trivia facts. Yeah, back in SEL plumber days, like season 0, season 1, season 2, it started getting more competitive. That's when it kind of took the form of the SEL that is still prevalent today, with South Carolina, UTK, Kentucky still near the top. But season 0 and season 1, I don't know what the heck was happening back then.
All right, is that all we got for Rocket League side of things for our
Yeah,
main side
yeah,
here,
yeah.
Blake? All right, let's cut it over to Valorant. I won't call my old players plumbers here, but I will say the level of competition difference between last semester and this one is pretty high, especially comparing last season's overall compared to this one. The competition is very much so escalating in a very big fashion, and it's a big count thanks to all the big playoff teams we have. So let's go and throw over what our players are looking like and what the future entails. Obviously, Cumberland Phoenix, one of the teams we're looking at alongside their Destiny rosters, they are being the big dogs overall. GMU is one of the only ones we had that had been here previously that has made it this far into our semifinals. That was a big count thanks to the TSU team falling apart. They were also a new roster. We very well could have had nothing but new teams in our semifinal for this split. And unfortunately for Oklahoma, only one of the teams you needed to get on, you needed to, made it into our semi, so you will have to play that tiebreaker. But GMU is a guaranteed clinch. They are making it to finals, to LAN. Cumberland Phoenix has a tough match in front of them for GMU, but I think they're not going to look too heavily at that one. They may look at a couple of mistakes they made on the first map against UGA Rad and kind of make up for that on Pearl. But overall, it should be a pretty good match for GMU, and I don't think GMU is going to worry too much knowing that they have them in front of them. Even if they lose this, they guarantee they got land, and that's kind of the big thing for a lot of Valorant teams. But they would love to get that extra bid for finals and chance that through. Because you turn that to the other side of our playoffs, and you got JMU versus Cumberland Destiny, and JMU had a pretty quick game over Charlotte Esports. It wasn't anything too crazy. But Charlotte Esports was another team that had already clinched themselves through the lane, and they were really hoping. They were genuinely super pumped to chance out for CCC and to try to get as far as they can and fully contest, because they know any team that would make it to the finals above them likely would have already had a bid elsewhere for it. But they just couldn't survive the JMU onslaught. And JMU is, like we've always mentioned, feels like they're the second best team, and their seeding proves that. But they do have a very tough matchup against Cumberland Destiny. But JMU holds a lot of respect for Cumberland as a whole, whether that be Phoenix's roster or the Destiny roster. They have a lot of respect because they know the teams that they've been able to take down, and they held respect for those. So it's watching a bigger dog eat a dog you were already scared of, and it's like, okay, how do we somehow become enough of a carnivore to get our own bites back? And that's really up to JMU to try to figure out this up and coming week. We'll jump over to our Rising Stars, where things have gotten really interesting overall, because we haven't been paying as much attention to this. We did talk a lot about how we felt like USC, the winner of USC and ETSU, were likely one of the teams that goes on into the finals. And look, that managed to come true. USC had a great game in our round 4 against GMU for their semi, securing away a 2-1 victory, sending them down now into the loser side for their third place game. UK White didn't get the lap of luxury they would have wanted against JMUB, but I've already said that feels like the top of this bracket is the tougher side, and USC fought their way through it very well, and they're my team I'm expected to see come away with a victory. If they're the team I think got hardened the most, like iron, throughout the Rising Stars, the kind of team I was thinking of when I was talking about that. I think they very well can come atop over the top of JMU. So this that finals game and this up and coming week for JMU this Thursday are both really important matches for them for overall consistency. Because JMU, when we talk about LAN implications, they've clinched now, making it to semis tiebreaker. They're alongside Cumberland's A and B team. They're alongside technically Oklahoma, who did not get their full clinch, but they have the tiebreaker clinched thanks to only one team making it through. So they have to make it to finals. Any of those teams have to make it to finals to guarantee. And GMU could do the absolute funniest thing and make it to finals, somehow beating Cumberland's A team and securing themselves the grand final to throw away it so that Cumberland, both teams are stuck basically in a tiebreaker scenario. But it's one of those moments you have to kind of look at and be like, this is a scary time to be. But GMU, chance your way here in Rising Stars for third place. your main team, and you were doing absolutely amazing. UKY White, they just didn't really put up the game I expected from them against JMU's B team, which is, I won't say expected, but I did kind of see it coming along the way. JMU's B team is a scary force.
Can we pull up the results for that?
Yeah,
I'm curious to see what the round scores for JMUB and Kentucky White. So production, get on that.
Here we go.
Oh, sorry, Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't what I expected from, is what I was saying. They looked good throughout, but I do also feel like a couple of those games, because they were the most unknown team heading into this week, and I talked about that a little bit last week. They were the most unknown, and their score lines didn't do super over the top, especially when you talk about having Dudog and Marsh for JMU, who are players we've seen a lot actually for JMU overall. It doesn't really matter the team. They've always felt like they've been there. And a map like Ascent as well, like, I don't know. It did feel like maybe UK White was taking a bit of a breather and kind of resting on their laurels for the Rising Star playoffs here for the later stages, despite how well they performed early on, even getting that first round bye in Rising Stars. But the case has been said. They've now got to go through into the lower side and try to deal with GMU, which is not a force that's anything to scoff at, even comparatively to JMU. They just lost to in a pretty big fashion the week prior. So keep your eye out for that. We'll have that game later on this week. That will not be the one on broadcast. I don't think we fully decided the one we won 100%. I think we're trying to ignore the Phoenix and JMU game because we kind of know the scoreline of that's going to go, but we'd like to get in on a secondary stream. So if they'd like to reschedule that, we'd love to have that. And we're likely to do, I think Dallas literally said, if we do not get the if we don't get the Destiny and JMU game, he's quitting and will not reappear ever again for the SEL, which would essentially be him retiring from esports casting as a whole. So we're trying to keep him around for as long as we possibly can. So
I respect the ultimatum.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I respect the play from him. Like, if he's got his thing, his condition, and he's trying to stick to it. Unlike that Tennessee quarterback who wanted $4 million, and they just said, "Yeah, bye out the door." Thankfully, Dallas isn't asking for more money; he's just asking for better, entertaining matches, which we can most definitely have some picks over and go to. But it's been pretty darn good over for Valorant side of things. And our final thing to point out, after our LAN implications of UGA Black's guaranteed, GMU's guaranteed, Charlotte's guaranteed, all those teams in tiebreaker. Cumberland did have to play their CFL Grand Finals, and unfortunately came away with a loss at the end of it. They lost in the final map in a full best of 5, so it did require every single game. I have that pulled up in front of me somewhere. I think that was also in cahoots to be brought up at some point. I don't know if we managed to get that completely. They faced West Virginia. They lost in the final map 13-11. It was so darn close throughout it, and it was literally back and forth the entire time. One win. And it was a really entertaining match by all accounts, like checking out the scoreboards and everything else. The only map that was kind of bad was map 1, where they lost 13-5. But every other map was like only like 4 to 5 round differences. Some of them 1 and 2 round differences. It was there's just that close of a series. And big congratulations to West Virginia for being capable of taking down Cumberland Phoenix. But the story book has been written. That now puts guaranteed, though, still Cumberland in. I think we do have this ready as it has been posted. It was posted 5 minutes before our preparation actually started for the broadcast here today, Blake. The bracket for CVAL's championship. And we've got a lot, actually, of SEL teams by all accounts going in. In our uppers, we've got only one. That's going to be Cumberland. That's stapling up. Their first game will be against Baker. Otherwise, USC, technically, I mean, you're looking at as a big scare team against St. Clair. There's a lot of really good teams here, and there's a lot of teams I would love to see kind of step in next semester for the SEL as well. I know TAMU was one we've had big looks out towards. St. Thomas technically won as well. I can't remember where St. Thomas is. I think they're in Seabon South, so they should technically qualify for us, I believe.
I'll take your word for it. I have no idea where St. Thomas is.
I don't know. I got a lot of Twitter DMs I have to send, like I've mentioned, to go into this. But then our lower rounds is where things get a little bit more interesting overall for SEL teams. Good luck, obviously, to Cumberland for that. But for our lower rounds, UCF is there. Even despite how tumultuous their time has been here for this semester, for both their teams, even for the SEL, they both got as far as the other team got. There was really no difference between their A and their B team. And then we have, I think there was one more. I saw it, Converse. Converse did. And Converse has been playing really good, actually. Again, a team that wasn't as good as the previous semester, but somehow felt like they came alive where it mattered, or like maybe where they put more emphasis, like CVAL. And they're going to have a pretty tough matchup in front of them, because I know that CSULB team, I've casted them for CVAL before. They're a pretty scary force. Don't take them to Lotus would be my recommendation. They're pretty darn good on that map. I don't know anything about the Warriors for UCF. I can't give you any guidance there, but those matches will be brought up on pretty much every weekend, following up until SEL's finals. Thankfully, there's nothing on that weekend for the LAN. And then another week break, and then the finals themselves in Raleigh. That I think only 2 teams get to go to. So maybe we will see Cumberland go through, but there will be plenty of broadcasts to watch all these games. A lot of partner teams and programs and things of the sorts that they are providing for that, thankfully, for this semester. But it's been super cool to see Cumberland through their time in the CVAL South, giving great representation of the teams in the SEL. But congrats to them, big round of applause. Unfortunately, the finals just seem to elude them there, Blink.
Wait, was that Kennesaw State as well in the lower bracket? Is that I saw KSU, and it looks like the colors, like the gold and black.
That is Kennesaw State.
The Owls. Okay, hey,
I don't even think they have their Val team in SEL.
Huh. All right. Well, guys, help your Rocket League guys split the costs here. Let's join the SEL next semester. But hey, they're there as well. So a little more like technically SEL representation, the same way like Charlotte represents the SEL in Rocket League, even though they're not playing in the SEL this semester. It's still an SEL school, so we'll wish them some luck. Maybe less than like Cumberland and UCF and Converse, but still some luck there.
Oh, speaking of giving good love, we got a lot of things to talk about when it comes to the LAN sides even further here, Blake. We got more news, or the reminder, I guess we should say, about our high school side for LAN. Also, have we confirmed the format we're doing? I know we were. Has that been confirmed yet?
Yeah, so it'll be just a regular double elimination on LAN, similar to what we do for playoffs and SEL. We'll have a qualifier if we have a surplus of teams to get to LAN. But at this point, if you know someone that may be interested in competing on LAN, which shout out to a couple of members of the SEL helping me out today, Coach Stanley, Coach Claypool, Gray from UAH, helping me get some contacts to reach out to more high schools, because man, recruiting and finding contacts with high school esports programs is so much different than collegiate. Like collegiate, I can go pinpoint a player in a different league because there are so many different leagues and just message them about it. But high school is a whole different beast. So help us out if you can. But it is shaping up well. We will have a good competition there. We've got some schools confirmed to be competing. And so there will be more information about that in the weeks to come in the SEL server. So you'll see the announcements. Make sure you have your announcements turned on as well in the SEL server. There are some players and captains that don't have pings on in the SEL. I promise we're not going to spam you too much. It is worth having notifications on for the SEL server. I guess that's another piece of SEL news. There's not much right now. We're working hard on setting up that high school LAN as well as our LAN for collegiate next month. But we're kind of well versed when it comes to that already.
Yeah, I think we're also thinking about doing new things with it, so keep your eyes out. We're cooking up in the background, so yeah, everyone keep your eyes, especially when we've got like multiple days to prep for it in advance, right? There's going to be a whole lot there, and if you come down early for the LAN as a team that's made it, reach out to any of the staff and meet up with us and have a conversation, and we'd love to. We're pretty vain as talent, right? I think that's kind of like the number one thing about esport talent. We love to talk, even if it's not about the video game that we're currently talking about. We'll gladly chat with anybody. And we're super excited to see everybody come down, especially the new faces that we haven't seen before. And also somehow, especially the old faces we have seen what feels like so many times before. And maybe the last time we see them as they'll grow out of our collegiate side of things for esports.
All right, well, speaking of SEL on LAN, let's talk SEL on LAN. Not our LAN, but different LANs. It makes sense. We had a couple of Rocket League LANs this weekend that did feature SEL schools. We'll start with the Coastal Clash. I've already kind of mentioned it in my my accolades portion for Rocket League. Since, James Madison did end up winning this LAN in the what do you say? Is it D? It's the DCMV, I don't know, DC, Maryland, Virginia, the DMV area. And so it featured schools in Maryland, Virginia, and that area of Rocket League. So decent prize pool, $750. James Madison came out on top. So shout out to the boys at JMU for getting a LAN dub right there. They didn't have a ton of competition here. That PJZ roster is a couple of really good high schoolers. And Wikipedia is wrong. They played with Dev, I was told, of George Mason. So shout out to GMUB and Dev for playing on LAN, giving James Madison a good fight. But they got the dub there. But Volan had a lot more Rocket League teams that compete in the SEL, including TJ. TJ played as well with his Dog Dynasty roster, which is Buddy RV of Georgia State, and then a high school player from Georgia as well. You can see him at the bottom. But we had Cumberland and UTK. Retirement home is what they're colloquially named after, since all the players technically retired. And they had, Kennesaw State as competition, ETSU as competition, UAH Blue minus Space Captain, and Taka were there. Pretty stacked LAN when it comes to the top of SEL. If we can show the results, you'll see just how stacked it was and how that didn't even matter to Cumberland, who did not drop a single game throughout the entirety of the tournament. Even though UTK Retirement Home, I thought, was going to give them a good fight. Shaka, unfortunately, could not lead his boys to a game victory over Cumberland. And close games, but still, Cumberland, they showed up. Let me put it back up there.
A 5 minute and 40-second OT.
Yeah,
a 10-minute round of Rocket League.
Yeah, long game there, but still, the Cumberland showed up, which I really respect them for coming to Volan. I spoke about this on mine and TJ's podcast, Collegiate Exclusive, which broadcasted last night on both of our Twitch channels. But shout out to Cumberland for going to a LAN like this. Like, it's not your CECC, it's not your SEL LAN, your NACE LAN, that sort of thing. It is more of a random local grassroots LAN. And they still showed up, hung out with the players, competed well, and took it seriously, and ended up taking first place. I really like to see that in our varsity programs, actually taking these sort of events seriously.
I feel like, especially when the competition is so tight everywhere, what it feels like it is for Rocket League, right? For Collegiate, because there's so many good teams. You can't rest on your laurels at all as a big program, as a big team, as the Titan, so to say, right? Because that's just, you never know. Iron hardens iron, whatever the saying is. I got to figure it out at some point. I'll actually look into it.
Keep using it, yeah.
But like, these are teams and players that are constantly going against other good teams and players in LAN, getting that experience, growing and improving. If you also are not trying to grow and improve, even if it's a 10-minute long game of Rocket League, right? They're learning something, and then I'm sure and improving as they play, because they're too good of players to not improve and learn as they go on. They'll eventually get surpassed. Like, talent is good, but hard work can beat talent. If talent does not work hard. And I think that's where you're seeing some of the best programs kind of step above other best programs by realizing they still got to work hard to get the job done.
And shout out to Taibu as well for casting, apparently. He's credited on the Wikipedia page. I would have loved to hear that. I was out and about while Volan was going on. I didn't get to watch it, unfortunately. But, hey, top 4, all SEL. It's a pretty good LAN, $1 grand on the line. So if you're looking at it next year, I would definitely recommend Volan. I know who to talk to about getting you involved if anyone's listening right now that wants to compete. But I hear we had a Valorant LAN as well, Scott.
Yeah,
what?
There was actually, for shockingly enough, there actually was. And Volan also had a little bit of Valorant action.
Yeah.
I think there was like 12 teams for it in total. I may be wrong in that number. Casters don't do math. We try not to do too much. I think that's 8. Technically, if I try to do twos. But UJ Black obviously just kind of tear through most things, as you would expect them to. UTK Orange was also involved into that one. Same thing with UTK White, who immediately got dropped down to losers and lost their game. They got really unlucky. They got put against UJ Black in the very first round. That's just, that's putting the cart for the horse. Okay, who are we facing in losers is the first thought you have through that. But UJ Red also performed exceptionally well. I'm really impressed by whoever Jack's people. Didn't use that the same team that you said managed to get their high school team for Rocket League? I wonder if that's still true for the Valorant side of things, because if they were able to take down UGA Red, that is a crazy stat to say, considering how good UGA Red is at the end of everything, especially with the way the side has been playing. And so overall for the last week, okay, no, it's not, because that's Epoch. Epoch is absolutely not. This is a mixture of a couple of Clemson players.
Okay.
Which still very impressive that they managed to actually take down that side. That is unbelievably impressive. You turn that all around, though. They also had another Clemson team that was there as well. So, I mean, there was like, it looks like there was just a barrage of people involved. But they come away with that victory. They're super happy to have that, I'm sure. They're also looking forward to the LAN. They're guaranteed here for the SEL. But then there was also another Valorant LAN. We didn't have any for so long, it feels like, and now we had all of them kind of drop in the same fell swoop. It was the second, I believe, ever Catawba Valley Clash. And Charlotte, UNCC, actually managed to come away with the victory, not only in Valorant, might I add, but also over for Rocket League. And in Valorant, I believe their final was actually against Converse, which was obviously was going to be an exceptionally tough game. And they came away with the victory at the end of it, and they were super excited. Ruda said that I think they said it was just, he may just be the LAN king. He just plays better on LAN, which, to be fair, the way he plays, honestly, would kind of expect that, right? That's just the name of the game. Unfortunately, we don't have the bracket for that to see how that panned out. It was all done on their broadcast. There's a VOD for it. Go check their Twitter, and you'll see the post. But they had a great victory photo at the end of it. I got to learn who everybody is because we'll see them at LAN more likely than not, since they're confirmed for it, and try to make sure I can actually differentiate everybody across. But huge congratulations to him, especially for having, both your Val team and your Rocket League team come away with a victory at LAN. That is a pretty impressive thing to say.
And as well, the Catawba Valley Clash also featured Rocket League LAN. I didn't even know about it until we saw it on the Valorant side. But apparently Charlotte ended up winning on the Rocket League side too. Except there was a picture posted, and it featured 3 players. Lazy and Knight, definitely. No Bala in the trio. I wasn't sure who the third player was just by face. So Charlotte won without Bala, which is pretty good. No idea who their competition was. I didn't have time to look into it, but hey, Charlotte gets another LAN W.
They were too busy at Vol.
Yeah. I mean,
looks like a lot of the really good teams were at this LAN that maybe eased up the teams at the Catawba Valley Clash.
Yeah, I mean, I think Volan definitely was the high ticket item of the past weekend. But Charlotte got another LAN victory. They won the C3 Esports League, the North and South Carolina LAN, a couple of weeks ago as well. So they're racking up trophies in their first semester as a varsity program. So I'm glad to see that Charlotte's bringing some success early on.
Especially with how avid the fan base is as fans for them, right? Whether it be the programmed teams or the teams that are not technically a part of it, like having Niner Esports main team, they have no ill feelings towards each other. They're always in chat talking and cracking jokes. They'll tune into a VOD stream I'll do on the B stream here for the SEL, talking about their match and recorded it, and they'll crack jokes the entire time. They are some of the coolest people. You'll have a conversation with it, but they are so invested in Valorant and the esport that they do. I'm sure that holds true as well. I think it's it's just something in the water maybe for that school to have their program be so willing to rise up to things. You'll find programs that have a lot of funding and have a lot of support, but the player base kind of feels like they're falling off in terms of love for the game or for the grind of esports. And then you'll see some of these smaller ones who don't have that funding, who are giving literally everything they have and probably flunking their classes, please stay in school, to get the job done in their matches and in any events that they're attending.
And Charlotte is, I thought it was weird that they weren't already a varsity program, considering how deep of an esports school that they are. For not being a big D1 college, they have a good esports program. So I'm glad they are officially varsity, and hopefully they can expand that even further going forward. But hopefully we do get Rocket League back in the SEL next semester. Hopefully the players don't have classes on Wednesday evenings. But either way, we love Charlotte here, even if they're not competing in the Rocket League side this spring. But we get them on the Valorant side, and they are still a lot of fun to watch there in Twitch chat and on the map. But I think that is the end of our show. Scott, have we covered everything?
I think that's it. I think we've secured. I don't think anything else we have in terms of news or breakdowns or anything confirmed. So it'd be wiser just to not say anything instead of telling you things that are wrong and having to backtrack it later and apologize. Who would do that in the esports side of things?
Well, look at us. We finished up 6 minutes early at the top of the hour, just under a 60-minute state of the SEL here. Shout out to everybody that did tune in this fine evening for the beginning of a big-time SEL week. We've got the Rocket League top 6. We'll know our top 3 podium schools after tomorrow evening. The stream will start off with Bruton Parker and Cumberland, 7 Central, same time, same place, with me and TJ on the call there. And then we get the winner of Academy for Bruton Parker and James Madison, and the winner of KSU and Florida, taking each other on at 8 Central time. And then I know you said we don't have Valorant stream schedule locked up just yet.
It's pretty much locked. I'm trying to keep Dallas as my duo here for the SEL, so it's kind of locked. It's Destiny facing off against JMU coming up this week on Thursday. So make sure you stay tuned for that.
Yeah, 7 Central at same Esports SEL Twitch channel. Make sure you follow us on all platforms, the T's of social media, Twitter, TikTok, and Twitch. Ooh, I should have practiced that one before I started it. But 3 T's. Make sure you follow us, Esports SEL. And that does it. Yeah, all right. Shout out to Shaka in the background for giving us live updates, giving us info on LAN invites, everything in the background as our producer. Infernosis, thanks for representing Valorant in State of the SEL this week. I'm Mr. Bepic, and I will see you all tomorrow for Rocket League.